All right, it's 6 o'clock. Let's get the show on the road. Right, Roger?
Yes, sir.
All right. As long as you're ready. Okay, we'll call at 6 o'clock. On the dot. The Pool Recreation Center committee agenda or meeting for July 27th. We'll go ahead and start with roll call. Matt Sam.
Here.
Chris Evans. Sean Miller. Corey Gibson. Danny Park.
Here.
Roger Stewart.
Here.
Andy Quant.
Here.
Melissa Fehrenbach. Janet O'Donnell.
Here.
Blake Pennington. Here. Neil Owens.
Yes, here.
Brent Clark, I'm here. Richard Ranzow.
Here.
Awesome. Move right along to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving right along on the agenda here. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Roger. Motion by Matt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Moving along to item number 5, updated sales tax numbers. Well, as you see, we did have a slight dip in receipts this past collection. So, of course, remember, this is 2 months in the rear. So if you do recall, was that April-May timeframe that this was collected. So once, everyone kind of got through the cycle of tax season and kind of spent those funds, now you kind of see a little dip. And then we'll see that come back up. So, we're not too worried about it. The month previous in June, with having that collection at 79,000 and almost one of the highest, we're confident that we're still seeing, above our original projections. So wanted to update the committee on that. Any questions? All right, moving right along to item number 6A, new business. Again, kind of A and B will be kind of all in one. And so I will turn it over to SJCF, who is our architect firm that is going to run the PowerPoint on the computer. And I'm sure McCown Gordon will be involved in the discussion as well.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to see everybody again. We've been really busy putting some things together. Today, I think our agenda and specifically is for us to review the status of the design. Work that's being done by the team on Lions Park specifically. So we've got a number of slides on that. And then secondly, we'd like to update you on the double up. Okay, great.
People have said they can't hear you very well.
Oh, I thought I was yelling.
You're not.
Great. Let me just back up then so everybody can hear me. So today the agenda more specifically is to go over Lions Park, the progress on the design that we've made over the last couple of weeks. We've got a few action items there for the committee. If we could, we'd love to have your comments on our concepts that we present today. Any feedback you can give us will get us closer to something that we can put on paper and get over to McCown Gordon as soon as possible. We'd like to have that, as well as some direction on sort of the kind of the shade structures that you might like, whether what we present today is good or bad, or you can come back to the drawing board on that. Also, the splash pad. Brian's got some show and tell for you today. Some direction on that would be great. And then Terry's going to go through our program for the fitness and aquatic center and tell you how that meeting went and show you kind of where we are on that. So that's our plan of action, and that's our what we'd like to have accomplished at the end of the meeting. Just a reminder, here's what we talked about last time, just diagrammatic, kind of the goals, the priorities that this committee had. And we, like we did last time, we went through and just double check that. But just for your reference, this is what we decided on last time. And what Gary's going to talk about now is really, we did two design concepts for the north edge of Lions Park pool. This is the concrete area we're going to add on. And one concept's real kind of organic, like we talked about. The other option is more of an angular option. One has more concrete, one has less. And Gary's going to talk you through that.
Right, so the first concept here, like Matt said, is more organic, meaning that it's very curvilinear. The fence line does extend out up to the sidewalk area, so it is a long, straight path. But then down from that, south of that, is a flowing edge between the concrete and the planting areas. That could be a planting area, it could be turf, a lot of turf. Some of the parts were toured, or splash pads were toured. Grass didn't seem to do so great inside the fence area, so I'm not going to stay away from grass. And then to go along with that curvilinear concept, we're looking at some shade structures that might follow that kind of lineage. And then maybe in the middle there, I think that one of the parks we looked at, there was some raised areas, some mounding. Maybe that might be a good place to sit and watch a swimming event. Also looking at maybe using some of the big stone pieces that we saw as seating. I've also got some lounge furniture shown. But really this concept, we want to show you kind of what might be more of a flowing type of a design versus the next one, which is more angular. So the next slide is a shade structure that we're actually using in touch. And so, shade structures there's many different designs. This is one in particular that we're using at the college, and this is roughly $30,000. It's about 12 feet by 42 feet, so it's a fairly large area. If you can go back there you go. So we've shown four different kinds of those along that northern edge.
Is that fabric or metal? Sorry.
That's fabric.
Okay.
What is the cost of this structure?
This would be similar to 30,000 times 4. Okay. So 120,000.
Yeah, these just to help you scale these. What did you say? 12 by 40 Hutch. These are shown at about 8 by 30. So the ones at Hutch are bigger, and really, it's arbitrary right now on this plan. I mean, they could be bigger, they could be smaller, completely flexible.
Yeah, so what we'd like to get from you all is, I really like this, I don't like this, I really hate this, I really love this. Some kind of feedback of what you all would like to see on that northern edge. Let me go to the next one and see if you like this one. This is kind of maximizing that concrete. That's really going from the pool up to the sidewalk edge, all concrete. Now, there would be some triangular areas there for maybe some landscaping. But and you see triangles, the shade structure would also follow that kind of flow or that shape too. We'll take that design on across there. Underneath each one of those shade structures could be seating, tables, chairs, and then some lounge furniture between. So, initial thoughts?
Well, the first one, so it was 30,000 per structure. And this one would be similar to that. Now that's just a shade structure. You're not talking about the turf and the landscape or all those things. You're talking about just a structure itself.
Correct. I think right now I'd like to get maybe just some initial thoughts, ideas, likes, dislikes, and then we'll probably throw it over on the county board for pricing.
Yeah, really, the more organic we get with the shape of the concrete, the less concrete there is. So I think one way to approach this is your goal, is your preference to maximize the concrete and therefore have plenty of room for people to stand and, lots of flexibility, or would you like more of a lush border between the parking lot and your pool? This one, there's plenty of room here for all kinds of landscaping. And we haven't priced any of this, so it's just basic concept. But this, would give you that buffer. It would give you a natural look to elevation, what we're showing at the bottom there. what the intent would be is this design would be pretty much screened. So you'd have the tree, the canopy, and then you'd have probably some evergreen type screening is what's insinuated there. So it would add privacy and add kind of a natural feel, but you lose concrete. You lose that usable concrete. And on this other one, there's a lot more concrete. This one was the first concept we worked on, and it was more, we looked at the V shape as a guiding principle. You can kind of see that everything's a V, obvious Valley Center connection there. But it's a place to start. It has a kind of a hexagon feel as it sawtooths across the north side. And we could play off the hexagon design and the paving. There's lots of opportunities for us to build the branding. I know that was mentioned last time, and we could really blow that up. And you'll see something Brian presents a little bit later that kind of has the hexagon design in it too. Some might be wondering what is on the far right side of the elevation, that kind of tower element. That's really just a possible branding opportunity or signage. That was mentioned in one of the meetings. I don't think we have it in our budget, but we put it in there just to say it could be done. They're on the northeast corner of the park. It would be visible from the street. And unfortunately, it's not near your entrance, which usually you'd like to put signage near the entrance, but it is a place where when you stand on the west end of that paving and you look to the east, you could have something at the end of that on this design that says Lions Park, your logo or whatever you want there. That really, that option on this scheme is kind of duplicated here on this scheme, where you stand in the west, you look east, there's a termination for that concrete, where we just kind of wrap it with the vegetation. There's kind of a conversation pit, if you will, there on the end. Just a node there to kind of draw your eye. So both these concepts have different approaches there.
I'll just throw out my preference is the second one to maximize, the number of people getting there. My only concern is that the V with the overhead, I prefer if we're going to do shade, just don't put a split in there. I don't want to sit underneath shade and have the bright sun shining down on me anyway. That's just from a practical point of view. I think people need to just be in the shade, but I personally like that one so that you can have the viewers and parents and all the other people doing whatever,
This one kind of sets up for zones. I mean, you kind of have these individual pods where you could have a group and have a group and have a group, a little bit separate. Thanks for your comment.
What's the approximate size of it, the shade structures on this, or kind of what were your thoughts?
Well,
Have it hammered
these are
down.
huge, and it's diagrammatic. We would probably scale this down. There's more of them, so it's more money. What would happen to stay within our budget is we'd have to say, look, we think we could get by with 5 of those, or we might only want shade on 2 of those zones, or maybe we add another shade structure later. It just sets up a basic matrix for this to be installed. And, I probably would scale them down. However, the smaller you get, we did a little sun angle study.
Right.
That sun will, if it's too small, you're not going to shade much.
Right.
Especially late in the afternoon. That's everyone. It has to be a certain size. We may decide that we want more shade in one area, or maybe we focus on 3 areas instead of 5. And we just maximize the shade.
Are those bushes or those trees?
Both, or neither. It's we need to do the design of the landscape, but right now you can see in the lower drawing, they're called out as kind of tree shaped form, and then we maybe some grasses, like maiden grass or prairie grass or something like that to have a different color. They come down and they go back.
I think the space is good on this one, like having all the space for seating and people to be at. One thing I did like about the first one is the seating area that you guys did provide the concrete blocks. I think those standing there.
Not shown here.
And so just saying, I know this is just a draw, but even like having that thing at the end doesn't have to necessarily be the circle, but having something at the end maybe for people to gather around or a group of friends. So I think those will be important for us.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we can. That's a nice thing. We can mix and match it.
Yeah.
We can take a piece of that first concept and put it over here.
Yeah.
Be good.
On the first one, the thing that I like is I do like the organic feel. I think that's going to give you a solid change when people come to the pool and really, say, what did we get for our money? What did we change about the pool? They're really going to see that, I think, more in that organic feel. That the curves. I do like the second one from the angle that you said. There might, and I think there'd be a way to do this, but simple. I like the landscape, but I also like keeping it simple at the same time to maintain, because we'll be doing that. But I think that was something that impressed a lot of us that went on the tours too, is the different, some of the landscape, the feel, the turf, all those items, all those elements, looking at that. And there's a lot of things I like about the second one, but I like this one probably the best from that angle, because I think you're going to see a lot of change. And I think that's one thing the public's going to be looking for when they see the finished product, is what changed.
Well, there's certainly most of the splash pads are organic in shape. And they have a amoeba shape. They're not very angular. So, if we're concerned about paving, maximizing paving, this big grand undulation that we got shown there could be kind of shrunk down. You could shallow that up a little bit, maximize. You could add more paving to this scheme and still keep the undulation. So that's what we prefer. And we could take the triangular shades if you like those and put them on this scheme. Or if you like the radius shades,
Put those shades on the other side.
or either way, yeah, that's true.
So like these shade structure, are they like specifically like the one you're doing in Hutchins, or can they change shape?
Oh, there's multiple different panels, sizes, and shapes.
They're custom.
So they're custom either way. But I mean, is there an option out of a catalog that's more cost effective, Todd?
There's some stock ones as well. There'll be squares, pop up.
But you could change the direction of them to kind of make it
You don't have to
Make it
install
look
a square. I mean, install a square one at 45 degrees.
It probably behooves us to come back next time with, and Brian's got a lot of this art in his presentation too, but with more photos of shades, and then that might help you.
because I like this. I was shocked on the tour at how much impact just visually a mound of turf made. I don't know. It just made it feel like, wow, like, that's really cool. Like it's clean, it's fresh. I mean, I think that's important to have in this renovation. I like the first option more than the second one, just from kind of what Blake had alluded to. Over there on the far right hand side, seeing that gathering place for people to hang out in is really, really cool. Just the shade structures, I'd rather go with a more cost effective option than maybe a custom at this venture, this point of the process. Trying to not blow a whole lot of finances on the shade structures that are.
Like the ones we have were great.
Yeah, those
I
are
love
wonderful.
those. Those are awesome.
Where are those at? Where are those current shade strips?
They're on the south side.
Behind the slide.
Is that enough on the south side? What I'm getting at is we're only talking about the north side. We haven't mentioned any structure.
I don't know that there's really a lot of space over there because you put that splash pad in there because there's a baby pool, there's a shade structure with tables, there's the slides, and there's a little gap, and then there's the big shade structure with a whole bunch of
We have enough. We have enough on
The south side's good. Yeah.
I think so.
There's nothing on the north side, right? I mean, there's
Right.
It's just concrete and narrow, right? Like it's just straight concrete.
The preference to the type of shade structure, like fabric versus metal.
I'm gonna ask this guy right here to my left because he's the one that puts them up.
There's pros and cons. We obviously know to both. So, I mean, if the money is there, I mean, a permanent one with low maintenance would be nice, but I don't know if that low maintenance alludes to other things down the road. We've had really good success with the fabric ones. But we do have, I mean, we spend a couple of days, maybe a day putting them up if we just go hit it hard. And so I don't know, what was there, 4 more there? I mean, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
How long were they last? I was gonna ask.
We put the existing ones in at the pool in 2008. So they've held up very well. We take them down, we store them,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you leave them up all winter.
Right.
So, I mean, you don't got, snow and
and we,
ice or.
we do that with all of them. We take them all down, all of them.
There are some that are easy to take down. We saw some of those connections. They're easy to take down.
There was a couple we went to where it was turnbuckle. It was pretty simple, and the other ones were all numbered, lettered, and they said it was complicated to put together.
We've used, I think it's Shade Systems is the one that's over there. We've had nice success with them, and it does have an internal ratcheting turnbuckle concept, big screw inside, basically.
Brandon, what do you from the swim team perspective, I mean, which option would be more effective for swim needs?
I don't know that either one really makes a difference for swim team. Most people, when you come to a swim meet, you crash in little pods. You either have like for us, since we're home team, what we do is we go over. Most of our kids go over to the benches between the diving boards and the slides, and that's where a lot of our kids, our older kids, that's where they crash. And so they just, you'll just see big blankets thrown on the ground and chairs everywhere, and and then you'll see just tents all over. People putting their tents up outside, which is this area we're talking about right now.
For shade.
They would put up their pop-up tents. And then people just line the pool. They line that west side, the west side there to get shade, and the east side is where we put our clear the course and of course the blocks. And that northeast corner right there is where we put our admin who runs the whole, computers and printers and all that. And that's where the starters and all that is. So that's kind of.
Those would give them more room to kind of set that up.
Yeah.
And then also give kind of teams areas to do different shade pods.
And the coaches kind of sit right in the middle there on the north side. They have a tent that sits right up there so they can walk the pool and watch it. So, yeah, it's going to give you more space, I think.
So on this option, we have one turf area. Is that correct? In the middle?
This is in the turf area. It's not something we have budgeted. I mean, not necessarily. So this is just something we need to see where it falls out.
That rocks. Is that what those are?
Yeah, they're limestone blocks.
I mean, I agree with Brent. Where we saw the mound or the mounded turf areas really made an impact. I mean, it just, you went, wow, that's just really cool. This is a pool. Yeah. And to me, that is one of the most important aspects to this renovation, is to do something like that. I mean, if we have the concrete blocks, that's great. That would work better than, the one that we saw at Orchard or wherever that was, the whole concreted structure. I don't know if we really need that if the blocks work. And, maybe having a mound, even if possible, over on that northeast corner where the gathering area. So, I mean, to me, the organic view is a big splash, a big difference. I like the other one because it's angular, it's sharp, it's crisp, but this is more Valley Center to me.
That's why we did two completely opposite schemes, so we could easily differentiate.
Yeah.
I think we'd rather. I would rather see us, save in the type of structure you put up to put that towards an AstroTurf mound. If we could save 15, 20,000 or something like that all day.
You can always phase those shade structures in.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to get hung up on, the shade aspect. The whole general view is what I think is what we need to work on, and then, okay, where can we plug in these shade structures?
Well, I will say that one of the things that we noticed when we were doing this was the existing site lighting probably won't work with the design. Need to look more at it, but the poles are located, I believe they're located at the fence line today, and that's going to be right in the middle of our concrete. So that's something we're just going to have to look at as we get. Great, thank you for your input.
One last thing on this one where you have the line of shrubs or evergreens, is that right then you have the sidewalk right
It'll
after
just
that?
be on the south side of the fence.
Okay.
Somewhere.
Okay.
And, whether you guys want grasses there or juniper tree or whatever,
Yeah.
we can decide that.
Yeah, that's true.
Great. Well, let us roll into the splash pad because I know everybody's super excited about that. Brian's got some cool stuff, so let him talk about that.
All right, good evening, guys. We kind of played around with some. We got 3 different concepts to kind of show you, and each concept is kind of a riff on some different theming or some different ideas. And the main thing we need to get from you guys is, okay, what elements of these things we're about to show you do you really like? What are some things, not as interested in? That way we can come back with a concept that we can then run through to get budget costs, and we can see where we're at. So this first one, there's actually a good idea that was actually provided by the committee, talking about adding kind of like that hornet's nest pattern. It's something you can easily do with the concrete. You're already putting the stuff down, so it can be colored in different ways. Kind of add that kind of theming. We envision maybe putting some sprays on the ground, each one in different pods. They can be set to a different controller where they can shoot. They do different things. We can use the limb flow. I know you guys have a lot of fun with your night stuff. You're adding more eating events. So that's the ones we have, like those saw at the Ailey swimming pool down in Wichita. You have the ones that can light up at night, do different things. Not much you can see during the day, but they do the same basic stuff. So it's a very easy design. It's a very clean design. It also leads to future, whatever happens in the future, we can do whatever we need to from here. It doesn't take up a lot of space, so we're not actually having to push the deck out very much. There is rules on how many features you have with how many kids and how much space you have in the square footage. So we have to be very cognizant of that, of the area that we're kind of working in. So there's just kind of something we want to show you. And then once again, there's a Pegasus shade. They're very popular, but once again, they're also a little bit more pricey because they aren't quite the standard option. So any thoughts on just what you see on the water jellies, and do you have a couple of the bigger jet streams that just kind of shoot up regularly? What are you guys' thoughts on this concept?
Are we gonna do anything aerial, like buckets or anything?
Just on this one right now.
I like this. But
Yeah, just see what you guys like. Do you like just kind of the clean, simple look of this?
Yep.
Do you like the theming of the hornet's nest?
I like the hexagon.
Do you like the addition of
hexagon
lights?
is awesome.
Are the lights important? Like maybe not as important. That's more from the operation standpoint. Does the
like-
lights give you something that's a benefit?
Weren't the lights pretty expensive?
Yeah, that's what I
They are. They're a little
So-
more expensive for simple ground sprays. It definitely ups the cost. Absolutely.
I'd rather put in some other sprays, more sprays to get away from the lights.
Okay.
more of the B and C, more of those two than the A's.
Color, I think you need more color. I like the hexagon thing, the theme.
Okay.
I don't like the monochromatic. I mean, this is for kids, and
Yeah.
little kids. And,
Yeah, brighten it up.
And this is, without having the features out there, the standalone features, having some color in other areas, I think would be really cool. So.
I don't know if you noticed, we like color. I don't know if you saw that water tower coming.
Just a little bit. Yeah. And that's a great thing too. Is obviously the concrete can be colored any way you want, different patterns, different things. Really pops when it's wet. So yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do.
So if this is sliding to the south a little bit, right? Because it won't fit exactly where that wading pool is, correct?
It just limits how much we can do there.
And
I
so
think we did discuss through our meetings. We may need to look at trying to push out the fence line a little bit, just like with some of these things that we're looking at. How far do we go? You talked about some elevated,
Yeah,
structures.
unlimited space on the south.
Right. We just also have the budget that we want to make sure we're not going too far.
In that budget, we did include like all fences, so. It's not a-
20 feet fence, 60 feet. Okay.
Now,
I heard unlimited space, so I mean, we'll go crazy. I like it.
I don't know if you need the shade structures over there like that. I don't know. That's just me.
I'm with you, Brent. I had a chance to visit my niece and my sister and brother in Ohio last week. And I saw one almost identical to this, and it didn't have an issue. And there was a ton of kids playing in something with the C and the B's. I don't know if they had colored ones. We weren't there at nighttime, but this I think would get used a lot.
The shade's definitely not for the kids.
It's for the parents.
And even like a simple, even something simple could be added.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd like to maybe pick some out of the catalog and maybe have 2 or 3 smaller ones. Because I mean, this doesn't shade the actual water.
No.
Or the spray
I think
feature.
that's
So
what
I
it's
mean,
for,
yeah.
like I said, for parents.
One of the questions I had is, can the splash pad be positioned close enough to utilize the existing yellow shade structures that are over there? Is it possible to take advantage of some of that existing shade?
That's what the Ohio one did, is they had it all in one deal. You could actually watch your kids go to this
Yeah,
while you're underneath the shade structure.
Right,
It was
where
a
the
very nice aquatic park.
parents could sit under there
Yep,
or,
yep.
yeah.
This is all, obviously very, very close to see.
Yeah, that one to the southwest of the slide.
And be honest with you, the times that this would be open and when the pool's not open or available, it's not, you're not going to really need those shade structures. It's earlier in the spring and later in the fall. Well, I guess maybe in late August when the
Yeah.
pool's closed,
The pool's closed
you
in
may
August.
need shade. That's true.
It'd be nice to have a spot or two.
We could come back with a design that shows maybe just like a shade structure. Obviously, the one that's currently could be utilized when the pool's open and you have access to it. But if you are looking at fencing that off and having an extended season splash pad, we probably want to use the existing shade structure. We didn't probably close that one off, but may have something that's set over for some seating.
Yeah,
So-
Like the ones at the dog park.
15.
Yeah. If
Exactly.
exactly.
tie that in.
Yeah,
That was 15
something pretty easy.
For both.
I think so.
Yeah, so it was like 15 grand for both of those. I know it was a couple years ago, so maybe it went up a little bit, but for the ones that are in the dog park.
Okay. Absolutely. All right, next concept.
That's a little fancy.
All right, here we're starting to add a little more of the elevation that you're just kind of asking about. Here's some kind of the features, but I show some stuff. Once again, I don't know if we have room, what we're looking at right now, to put all this stuff in. This is really just kind of spark the conversation of these different features that we do kind of see that could happen here and why they're important and what you might like. So starting with the flash flood, the bucket system. Everybody loves the bucket system. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a big, huge elevated play structure that kids are running off. You can just have that simple kind of standalone bucket where the kids can go over together and they get dumped on. So that's definitely a fun elevated feature that can be added. Then you have like the canopy clusters, the little tipping buckets. They fill up and then just kind of dump individually. It's basically the big water bucket, only it's like bunches of little ones and it goes more often. Then you've got the Cascade River. Those are kind of fun. They're fun for sensory. Kids play with them. They're very interactive. Control the flows of water. They have little grates and little things that you can change that kids can play with, and water flows differently through them. Then you just have your jet streams again, which those can be colored or not colored. Just your simple ground sprays, bubblers. Once again, it's a real pretty simple thing to add. It's just literally just little bubbles of water. One thing we like to do is we're designing this. Obviously, this intent for the splash pad, this is for toddlers, this is for the younger kids. These are the ones that aren't going to be going into your pool. As it goes, in the off season, we still want to appreciate the fact that, we're only going to be there just for toddlers. We want to be more inclusive. So we want to have something fun for the older kids still to do as well, because they're not always going to have the pool to go play at when the pool's closed, for the season. So that's why you're going to see a variety of things. Then you've got like the bamboo rings and then the hydro helixes. So the rings to run through. So what are these features? What are these things like, oh my gosh, that's awesome, we love it, or we could do without.
What's the price range?
We're looking for a budget. We want to try to stay around 100 to 150 on features. So
So I mean, between A and B, which one's more? Is the A more expensive than B?
they're actually not far
Oh,
apart on those two.
That'd be mine.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like once we hear from you guys, when we come back with some concepts, we run some numbers by Pam McCall Gordon, we're gonna have a little bit more like, okay, here's what you can get for the budget we're looking at.
He's like, I'll take it all.
I said I could push the fence back 20 feet. So there you go. Got it. Oh, inches.
Oh,
my bad.
inches.
My bad.
So is
We'll
this
take
our
away
end
one.
golden?
Yeah,
Is that what
I think
this
so.
is?
Yeah, that's a nice
Yeah,
one.
that is a nice one.
Are the shade canopies included on this one as well?
Those are just placeholders. Two placeholders show.
Those are more effective.
I do on the C one. Is that something like, do they have a lot of problems with those breaking and stuff? Like, it's a really cool idea, and I think a lot of kids would like that. But I figured like it'd be easy for kids to break.
They're
and stuff.
fairly robust. I mean,
Yeah.
They expect they're going to have kids messing with them. You know, they expect kids are going to play with them pretty rough. So they are pretty robust. But I mean, yes, it's definitely more. I mean, obviously than a ground spray.
Yeah.
Than, something. Anything you have elevated, it's susceptible to any sort of damage or vandalism.
I know my 2.5-year-old would love C. I mean, she
Oh,
loves
yeah.
water tables.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a
Oh, yeah.
big.
That's
That'd be a big.
Exploration Place has one of those. Kids love it.
I think that might be something that sticks out to
Yeah.
like to us. Because I don't think Wichita had any of those, did they?
no.
See, I like
that
B
one
and C out of this. I mean, I like them all, but as far as elevated,
I prefer B over A because I just don't like the one big dump. I like the smaller ones, but that's just watching toddlers getting knocked to the ground at the YMCA is.
Your older
Yeah, when you know the kid you
Your
don't
older
like and you're
kids
like,
are gonna love
"Scooter, honey."
Yeah. Your younger kids, yeah. So
Better
trying to
chance
think
of
all
breaking.
inclusive.
Yeah, well, if you had B and, or A and B, the toddlers hopefully would be over in the little ones versus, I don't know. I'm
What-
old, I don't.
What is
They'll learn-
G?
Yeah.
I don't understand what that thing is.
the
What do you-
ring.
Does it spew out?
It can. It's so the water kind of comes around it, and then kids can actually spin it, and
Oh.
play with it. So kids spin it, it spins around, the water goes out further.
I had no idea. Like it looks like something that those acrobats jump through,
Jumping
the ring of
through.
fire.
I
Yeah.
can't- that's what I thought. It's not gonna work out.
Now, like H. I mean, kids love running through rings.
Well, yeah, and then in October you can actually change the system, and you can add some sort of pyrotechnics, and have kids jump in. I mean, ring of fire, it's whatever you want to fix it up.
Like how the Britannica, with H, with those rings going through the
Yeah, the rainbow
rainbow path.
path.
I mean, even adults. I mean, I see adults. Right.
So all these are doable
No.
with the budget we have.
At the same time, probably not all of them.
Okay.
But everything you see is something we could kind of play in with your budget. We could so it sounds like elevation, something you kind of do like. You would like maybe some elevation as opposed to everything just flat.
Yeah.
That's something we could okay, and you kind of mentioned you really do like B, possibly A, but B has a lot of interest. The sensory table sounds like we're pretty interested in something like that. So
What's different than what we have in our current one? I mean, because you don't have the same.
Sure.
And so what's different?
The big dumping bucket, the small dumping buckets are different.
Because we have that one
Yeah.
ring. We have the one ring.
Good H.
Yeah, I mean, the frog.
Yeah,
ring
just one.
thing, yeah.
Okay.
And then we have, how big are the bubblers? I mean, we have like a square box of water jets that shoot up about 4 or 5 feet.
Okay.
That's one thing we have. We have 2 water cannons. We have like a fire hydrant thing that just mists and sprays.
we probably would want to stay away from some of the stuff so we don't just duplicate like water cannons. We probably wouldn't want to do water cannons here. Keep it.
Right.
You do want different experiences at different splash pads.
A lot of this is different.
Yeah,
A lot of this is different from what we have.
Okay.
We purposefully stayed away from the dumping buckets on the original one because it's more in the open. We were concerned about vandalism and we wanted something that people couldn't jack with near as much. So
With this being fenced in,
with it being
does
fenced
that
in,
make
I
it a little
think,
bit
Yeah,
less
Yeah.
concern.
that makes sense.
yeah, and we've got cameras too, and that'll help.
I really like I don't know why. I see that a lot of kids. I could see a lot of the like my 10-year-old and kids wanting to turn that and get it sprayed.
but that sprays down on them as they're standing underneath it, where
Looks like they
GE
spin it, don't they?
Which are you talking about? I?
Aye.
Yes.
So they stand under it, it spins and sprays them, but then G spins also and sprays them.
Correct.
Yeah, that one's. It looks like that one's smaller.
So one's
But
just
that size.
That-
shorter than the others,
Yeah,
so.
the bamboo ring
that
sits.
one's down here.
Yeah, it sits quite a bit lower.
That's above
The
them.
water cannons are really popular at our McLaughlin splash pad because they're interactive, and I can see where they would be really
Yeah.
fun for kids
Yeah.
to have something that's interactive, something that they can touch and move, and that's going to be a big hit.
Does F move or does it just spray out?
It just sprays out. And one thing that you'll probably see that we'll try to do too is you'll probably have some ground sprays in one area because I mean the real little kids
That's
they love to just go sit. They just like to play with the water right there. But we want to have something that maybe like more tactile, that the older kids can kind of still deal with and do stuff with. Okay.
How upgradable is the initial pad? Once we put the streams in that, in the future, is it going to require massive renovation, or are they pretty upgradable to some of these other options?
Very upgradable, especially like these can be plug and play. Also, if we know that there's a probability that at some point 10, 15, 20 or something, maybe you want to increase the size of the splash pad, maybe you want to go further south, we can know that we can leave plummet that way. So here's our existing features, here's where everything runs out, and then here's the line ready to go. So in the future you just have to start there and move further. So
If in 10 years, the pool became a splash pad, how much would we want to get this? Add a big structure. The 50-yard pool.
Well, I think you just tie it into it. So, I mean,
I know,
you just break it up and tie it into it.
I understand. I just don't know how much money we'd want to spend on a splash pad with all the different features when maybe potentially down the road we're going to have to flush with.
Can we see what the prices are when they come back?
Yeah, certainly.
And then say, oh, you know what? Yeah, B was cool, but ain't that cool.
Yeah.
Let's go with all the
and,
bubblers.
and that is a thought,
So you said the budget was 100, 150.
but 100 for talking about features, we're trying to keep it around 100, 150 for other stuff that we need to do.
So to give you perspective, I mean, ours was about 120,000, 130,000 when we built it.
15 years.
Yeah, in 08.
10
So
years.
that gives you some perspective of what you might
That'd be now,
expect to get.
200 maybe probably now range. That's still a lot.
Maybe,
That's a
yeah.
big splash pad. I mean, that's a nice splash pad.
How long will it be?
2008.
It'd be a bit more. It'd be a little more. Yeah, I mean, we're talking.
I don't know, I haven't
filtration
priced
system,
anything
chemical
out.
delivery. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit more.
So you're thinking 160,000.
So,
From a dad perspective, I'd say BCI with some D mixed in.
I like D guys. D's guys. I think D has, maybe not color, but D
Oh,
I
okay,
think
I
has
see.
to be there. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think.
Well, this is an addition to the first one, right? This is an addition to the first one.
this is just like a totally different concept.
Oh, okay. So it's totally different concept altogether.
Yep.
Oh, well, you need sprays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to
Sorry.
spray.
Yeah, no,
You
we
got
would
that.
definitely. I mean,
I thought the sprays were the first one, and this were the actual structures. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Everything coming forward. I mean, jet streams are pretty easy. They're fun. So every design that we're gonna probably show you on the next round, it's gonna have jet streams in it,
Yeah, you have to have.
and it's
jets in
probably
it.
gonna have some bubblers in it too. All right, so
I think
that
that's
we
good.
this one on the third concept. Once again, just showing some different things. It's a more of kind of like wider stuff. The rings thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. Of the three concepts that we put together, that's probably my least favorite of the three. I kind of liked either the more simple, clean design of the first one or the elevated features of this one. This is kind of this gives you a mix of some medium features and stuff like that. It's a little bit more tactile. It has the water jellies, things like that. But
This looks like something we would do once we shut down the pool and expand it. This looks like a
Fill in the
bigger,
bigger
yeah.
space, yeah.
Like I'm looking for a shamu when we close down this pool. Like
well,
I want a SeaWorld water park. Let me tell you.
this does lead to a conversation of it doesn't have to be decided now, but you have sort of the future.
You're reasonable, that's the main.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
When we're talking about theming, when the first slide we show you talking about the Hornet's Nest theming, whatever, but this is Lions Park. You know, there is a nice riff that could be done off of, you know, some theming with Lions Park. I mean, if you want to add a huge lion in the future that sprays water, you know, out of its tail and roars every 30 minutes. I mean, that's probably out of this, but that's probably out of this budget.
My Shamu right there, right there.
So can you convert the classic, you know, Lions drinking fountain into a splash feature?
Possibly.
You know, I mean, they have those, and those are only $350.
Yeah.
An option. There you go, King Lion.
So, yeah, so we did come up to one little thing that we need to discuss. I've talked a little bit already just before the meeting about it. We had just decided when you guys looking at the pool about not replacing the chemical system, but we do need to look at how you want to do for a splash pad. We aren't able to use the current chemical system of trichlor. You would have to change to a different system. So the question to you is, do you want to do 2 separate systems and have 2 separate chemicals, or would you rather change to one system and have, you know, all your chemical supplies be the same?
What was the cost again of one system?
I think 40 is what Cam Gordon
For a
put it
new
up.
system.
Talk a little bit about the pros and cons, because I don't,
Sure.
I mean, where would you, obviously cost is going to be one of those things, but
Right, and
there's probably pros and cons because you've done this.
and your current system is a little bit cheaper the way it runs. It is probably, there will be an increase on the cost of chemical. Unfortunately, though, like I said, because the current system, it's not able to use for the splash pads. We would have to have we'd have to build a whole other separate system anyway. For the splash pad, you're not able to use what's called stabilized chlorine, is what your current system is.
Right.
Not to get too far in the weeds on the chemical stuff, but stabilized chlorine just kind of keeps the chlorine less effective, makes it last longer. From a benefit of not using that system, you get better control of your cyanuric levels to kind of keep things going. As you keep feeding the cyanuric acid into your pool with the current system, the levels can get to a point where it's so high that the chlorine's just not really doing what it needs to be doing. It's not sanitizing and oxidizing like it needs to. And it could lead to some cloudy issues. It can lead to some other stuff like this. So by moving away from the system, you have a little more control on your levels. You have a little bit more, you know, things that you can do to make sure those are sanitized and oxidized properly.
What
So-
is the cost of adding the new system, which we'd have to add, versus just converting it all into the new system?
Let me run numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, we
You
had,
convert it
looking at
into,
that spreadsheet, we had $40,000 to $50,000.
40. If we change the current system for the pool, it could feed. the
No,
splash
and that's
pad.
why I'm
Yeah.
asking, because we're gonna have to spend X amount of dollars just to add the splash pad anyway.
Correct.
Versus if we've got to do it anyway, what's the additional cost to make it incorporate everything?
So adding a whole nother chemical system just for the splash pad. If you decide to keep the current system, then add another one, you're probably around $15,000 to $20,000. So
15 to 20.
15 to 20. It's small. It's a smaller system,
Smaller system.
but we still have to get the basic stuff set up. You have to get it going. So if you take those savings and put it towards replacing
The entire.
But
it
now,
might be more cost effective.
when we go to do the larger one, could we use the new one that you put in for the 15, 20, or would that have to be upsized at that time?
Using the new one. I'm sorry.
So if we put in a separate, you know, one just for the splash pad, is that one going to be sized large enough for the larger splash pad once we get done?
If you said do that, I think we always like to oversize for growth, knowing that there's a possibility there's growth. If you keep the current system that you have, you know, you stay on the trichlor system, and we make a separate chemical system for the splash pad, we're going to size it accordingly to know that, you know, 10, 15 years down the road, there may be increase to what it needs to do, and it'll be ready to handle that.
There you go. I can. So I mean, yeah. What are your thoughts on running 2 different systems?
My preference is really to get away from the trichlor that we have. It's a much better system to go to calcium hypochlorite. 2 systems, I mean, it's doable. But this was a switching over from gas chlorine, which is what we did, this was a very low budget way to accomplish getting away from gas chlorine, which is fairly dangerous.
How long ago was that? So the system that we have now is only 8 years old.
They're only like $200 a canister. I mean, they're fairly inexpensive, and we installed them ourselves.
What's the life expectancy of that system?
We've replaced them a couple of times. So
Oh, they don't
Not
last
much.
long, then, Neil?
Huh?
They don't last long.
the chemicals play heck with them. Yeah.
So what about the new system? the whole overall system, I mean, what's the life expectancy of that?
Depending which one you go, but like the ones I operated with, I was there. They were there for 20 plus years, and we never replaced them.
That answers that question.
Yeah. So I mean, we'd be still. I mean, to not go with the one system that would make your life easier. And okay, there you go. There's your answer.
Okay.
Is there one?
Sorry.
Make
did I say
motion to
that?
adjourn.
I'm trying not to be the administrator here.
Well, I'm assuming that you guys are still going to continue handling the chemicals themselves. So really, it's going to be the city's preference. Whether you go with cal hypo or you go with sodium, that's just. I mean, every operator's going to have their own thing what they love with. So that'd be a conversation of, if you go with this system, here's what you're looking at for cost. If you go with this system, here's what you're looking at for cost. And we'll run down those numbers with the local providers, so you kind of know like what you're going to look at for an uptake, and then you can then decide which one you want to go with.
And that could fit in the current structure that we have.
Yes.
Okay.
But from a safety aspect, there's not one thing that's dangerous.
Well, obviously, chlorine's the most dangerous, which you guys got moved away from, which is sad because it's the absolute best when it comes to what you want to do. Between the two of liquid and the cal hypo, they're both fairly safe. They both require the same safety precautions. I think I got the answers I needed, so we'll be able to come back with you with a couple more different concepts for the splash pad. That's with some pricing that will run through Town Gordon. See where we got. So thanks.
Talked a little bit about the new rec center programming. We met with Blake and Corey and spent almost an afternoon talking about a gamut of issues. We tried to cover functions that need to be in the facility, what kind of capacities we needed, what kind of traffic flows, proximities, adjacencies, configuration preferences, flexibility of different spaces. Talked about what the program offerings are now, what we'd like to go to, safety and security. We talked about what kind of support needs they had, flooring, exterior needs, parking, all of that. So from that conversation, we developed this, and this is a work in progress. Blake has not even had a real chance to give us his feedback yet, and we expect there will be quite a bit. So as is usual in this process, this first view is probably the largest view you'll see, because we'll probably end up doing a little tweaking and bringing it back down. But this is a starting point. It does include hopefully everything we talked about that day. And we'll start talking about whether there's priorities or not. But I'm going to kind of run through fairly quickly, since it is just a work in progress and we expect a lot of changes. Like I said, it's just the first draft, so we can start getting some really positive feedback with the hope that in 2 weeks we can kind of start getting some square foot ballpark where we're at before we start doing too much in the way of actual floor plans. We do plan on putting some diagrams in here yet. We didn't get those in yet. This is still pretty early, but we'll do that. That will help you visualize spaces, not only what we discussed in terms of kind of the general configuration, but the relationship of what is the pool space versus the gym space size, things like that as well, before you really get into the program. So with that, you can see the summary for space. So you already can tell we're now, our first shot, 63,722. I think that's very close to Newton, if I'm not mistaken, so not too far off in comparison. So I'll give you a scale reference. The first space we talked about in this program is the right half of that is kind of the fitness spaces, cardio, the functional fitness, free weights, et cetera, and of course the track. We talked about a 3-lane track. Love to have it kind of be elevated around the gym, maybe go around the fitness space, et cetera, if we can. And ideally, somewhere around the 10 laps per mile is probably what fits in this size facility. And you can see a few comments there. Like I said, we still don't have the diagrams done, so those will be as we develop a little further. Of course, the natatorium space, we looked at several different kind of functional layouts. I think what was really preferred is kind of a separate activity pool from the lap pool. What we've got programmed right now is a 6 by 25, which is 75-foot long lap pool. Obviously, the activity pool would be a 0 entry to about 3.5, 4 foot at its maximum depth. And then, of course, a pool deck to work with any type of competitions or anything like that. And of course, you can see director's office, pool storage for lifeguards, etc. So you can see that space, and you'll see in a moment here when we get to the gym, they're comparable spaces. Studio space, we talked about having multiple sizes for maximum flexibility, different types of functions and programs. So you'll see that we've got them ranging all the way from 2,000 down to 1,000 square foot. And then we talked a little bit about having at least one party room. Be a really good feature to have adjacent to the pool as well. So you can see there about what that program studio space. Gym space, we talked about a gym that could be 2 74-foot courts. So it'd be full courts, but a little shorter for us old guys who don't want to run 94 feet. But that's kind of what we've done. A number of the YMCA's is 74-foot courts. And for most leagues or anything like that, or even just pick up a ball that's not large. So there you can see 11,000. So you compare that then to 13,000 in an auditorium that has 2 pools in it. Locker room space. I think this was the area that we saw in the study that was quite a bit smaller. I think they were 500 each, which just wasn't going to cut it. So you can see there, 2 of them at 1,500. And then the Universal. And the Universal, if you've been to the Y's, it has individual changing rooms in it. It's really family friendly, ADA friendly, etc. It's a really nice feature to have. And then we talked child center space. Definitely having a check-in vestibule for that. Big play area that's age appropriate, so it'll probably have some subdivisions in it. Of course, toilet. That was not real large, but it would definitely accommodate your needs. And then administration space, you'll see that your administration Blake's requests were quite modest. So 1,300 square feet is not that much, but would handle the functions fairly well. And then a social space, and we call social space your entry lobby. And we talked a little bit about how that would work. One of the things we talked about is creating a lobby where the check-in desks are staggered, but there is a choke point that's easier to monitor as people come in. Aren't quite as easy for people to slip through, etc. But also have view of the pool, and then some sort of a fitness lounge in there as well. So 3,100. Then of course support space, janitorial, restrooms, mechanical, etc. And then usually you'll notice on the summary page we usually include a ratio then of those net spaces to walls, circulation. In this case, 15% that would cover a corridor down to the locker rooms, those types of things. So that's how we come up with that. So again, like I said, we finished this up. We've just shared it with Blake and Corey, so they haven't even had time to really vet it since we've drafted this up. But we wanted to be transparent and share with you, the committee, where we're at, how it's coming along. I think the next step, we'll start to whittle it down a little bit, talk about any changes. This obviously already starts to give them a little bit of a feel for how big it is, and thus they can start doing some pretty rough numbers, but we'll nail it down a little more, because a gym is one cost, an auditorium is another cost, so they can start working off of these a little bit, but I think we'll reduce this down some square footage. I kind of expected it to be in the 50s, so it's a little above where I think we want to be in terms of budget. We'll keep working from here. Any questions?
Yeah, is the activity pool, or are the activity pool and the lap pool, are they separate or are they connected?
What we had discussed was 2 independent pools. You can put them together, and Brian, you're welcome to jump in here because you know a lot more about that. But we showed them several examples, and the preference would be to have 2 pools. They're 2 totally different users, functions, activities, and it's hard to use them at the same time if they're shared, pool. And so if you've got people trying to swim laps and you got families that want to be in there, it's really difficult to have one pool.
Well, if it's an L shape, they can be swim one way and this other.
There
It's still connected, but you can.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that we kind of talked about too. Is a temperature thing was a big one for us because for an indoor pool, a temperature is. Ryan was telling us that what was the.
Usually for you want for the competitions, the lift trays and the cooler for your activity pool, you would have looked over expanded kids.
That's one, and then we just looking at the different options of how they laid out and stuff. Making it work where they connected zero entry down into a 4 foot or whatever it was. There was a lot of different ways we were looking at it, but connecting the bodies of water was part of our problem, and keeping the temperature difference and
The
stuff.
activity pool is usually a C or a J. It's already kind of a loop in order to go from zero down to the deep end. Natural way without using up a lot of distance. Working around. That was our conversation. We're not done yet, but that was the conversation. That's what this is based on right now. And it may be that as we get into it more, we come up with a creative way to connect them. But you're right, temperature was a big discerning thing, just trying to make sure that lap pool is cool enough for those, those lap swimmers versus warm enough for those.
Is that a
kids
huge?
jump in.
Is that a huge deal to you guys in competition?
The kids do mention it. They don't like the warmer pools.
Yeah.
You just don't swim as good in warmer pools. And a lot of lap swimmers will, not just competition, but just general lap swimmers do not like it.
Well, that's a significant.
Yeah.
It's not big time.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
noticeable.
So
How much does it increase the cost?
We'll find out soon.
I think that's something we're looking at, seeing both sides of it when cost comes. And
Yeah.
Initially, I think they put them together. I think we were putting them together, but it was just by a set of stairs or something like that. They were literally. I don't know how it all worked out, but
I mean, this is not static. So as we go along, if we find it's just not affordable, then we'll start looking at how can we design it into one continuous pool. But the ideal would be two.
About the seating for the natural, I saw that there's.
Yeah, we showed a deck area there. I don't know if we listed the amount of seating.
Oh, it just says 4,800, but okay.
I don't remember if we talked a lot of seating in there, but
we had bleachers or roll-in bleachers we talked about.
right. I don't think we listed it yet. I was noticing that. We kind of skipped over that.
Have you been to indoor meets? Is it mainly just those roll-in bleachers for, other than like maze and stuff?
well, it depends on where you go. Like Newton they just got new seating. Always there.
Yeah.
Most of them are always there.
Yeah.
But most of them are at a school too.
Yeah.
They're not at a rec center. The only place that we've really gone is like the Y for non-school ones. Otherwise, they're usually school. So
They're like the maze ones that built over the lockers. So
yeah.
kind of double up that space.
Yeah, double up the space. Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous when you can have those seats that are way up. You get a great view.
Yeah.
I know that's.
I think the one thing as architects and designers we like to do is try to find creative solutions to what your goals are. I don't personally, I know whatever preconceived notion. That's why we start over from scratch every time we do it, because everyone's got a different perspective and different program. And so we can see some kind of creative solution where maybe you can name some secret. You don't have to name, you'll be guys there.
We probably need to kind of define what's an ideal seating number so we know what we're working towards yet.
So my question is, I haven't been up to Newton or even to Maze. The 63,000 square feet, you said it's comparable to the Newton one. So versus a general Y, because I've been to several Ys. How does that fit in, or how does that rate? I mean, not that we have to be a Y, I'm just kind of trying to get my mindset. It sounds like you've got everything here that we were really wanting, but I mean, is,
I'm trying to remember, like Northwest, I think it's 80.
Northwest is probably.
Yeah, it's quite a bit bigger.
I want to say we were, to be clear, the thing that we didn't get back to was try to do some comparison. But it's really hard. I totally understand. We don't look at that.
Yeah.
To understand what is the 2000. I mean, we know what our houses are, but it's hard to visualize. So our next thing we're going to do is try to do some visualization diagrams side by side, maybe some footprint or whatever. We'll come up with a great way to show that. Yeah. Before we start. Making decisions.
Do you guys set up tours like we did for the pools? I mean, that's great for us. I mean,
The program is very similar to what is happening. So
the what one?
Newton Y or Newton
the
Rec?
list of spaces and everything is very close.
The Rec
to
or the Y?
The
The
Y.
one that's out by
Okay.
35.
Yeah. See, I don't know what
Yeah,
when
no,
you say
I-
Newton.
yeah.
I don't know if you're talking about the Y, the Rec, or the. Okay. But if you get a lit, schedule something, and some of us that don't have Y memberships, they don't let us pass the gate.
We'll do that for the next meeting as we continue to refine.
It's just as soon as they expand that.
And we can get 15 passenger van or something that time, to travel farther if we need
Because
to.
it expands the whole building.
Yeah. That gives you a real good feel for the size of the
I do like
track,
that too.
the length of the track, a number of things. That's the one that, as we
Yeah.
went through,
Yeah.
landed really close to what was
I
described.
really
in
want
the
the
meeting.
nets to come down.
Whatever we need to do so we can still have a shovel in the ground in January.
Okay.
Do you guys know what size the Hayesville Rec Center is? By chance? Maybe I don't remember. Okay.
Oh, I know that. Blake, we know that. When we were doing the sales tax, we were coming up with everything we modeled.
That was a few years ago.
Was it
Yeah,
23,000?
I think it was more than that.
Was it more than that? Was it 45?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I slept since
Go
then.
here, go here. 60.
Here, 70 over here.
That was a couple years ago now.
What about the downtown Y? Any idea what the downtown Y is?
3 stories.
Okay. First floor. What's the first floor?
I don't know. It's not 3 city blocks. I think.
City blocks, 400.
Yeah. Is it? Okay.
So
yeah.
next meeting, we'll
Okay.
bring up a list of what
Yeah.
those are.
That's not even a close comparison.
That may be out of our budget. Yeah,
Okay.
3-story
Yeah.
building may be out of our budget.
We're not building down.
Dream big. That's my shamu.
That's right.
Hey,
30,000 square feet.
Hayesville's 30,000.
You guys are
30,000.
Googling.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Google.
Technology.
I believe they're getting ready to do
It is.
project.
30,000.
Are they getting ready to do some more? Nice.
Yeah, no, this is great. We owe you some more information after this.
Sure.
Well, this is a great start. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we thought we could wait until next 2 weeks. No, let's just go ahead and share where we're at.
Yeah.
Because we've made some progress. We still are moving forward. So, this is always our first step. And like I said, it's usually the largest square footage we have in the process before we start refining it. So I see that coming down as we continue to discuss not only
Wheedle it down.
how we can be more efficient. Sometimes you can combine spaces. We talked a little bit about that too. So we will continue to vet that over the next 2 weeks and bring back a revised version as well as some diagrams and comparable comparisons.
Now, as far as timeline goes, are we still kind of on track a little bit, or
On
and
this
with
part, yeah, we're moving on good on this. The only thing I was disappointed, I don't have all the civil quotes yet for survey quotes.
and we got on the same page as not for the okay.
So
I had a few of them call me and they go,
So, yeah.
Brent, I don't think that they're
We're
understanding
on
what
the
you're
same
asking
page
for.
now.
there any holdups with the pipeline or anything like that?
No, we're going to be on the west side of that pipeline. And so if you see the little toothpicks in the ground there, we'll be on the west side of that.
I knew that. I just didn't know if it was
Nope, the only holdup will be making sure utilities, that we can gravity things.
And honestly, I've been on vacation for a week and several of them tried to call me, so they had questions and couldn't get a hold of me.
No
When
worries.
you're down in Niagara Canyon, it's a little hard to answer the phone, or when you're on the Maid of the Mist and it's spraying. A good time to answer a call.
Good. It's always nice to get away.
Yeah, we'll get those here in the next week, I'm pretty sure.
All right, so anything else from SJCF? All right, Count Gordon. Todd, do you have any?
No, I'm good. I was just here to kind of help support. No,
Well, there goes a violation.
just here to
that fine.
support the Schaefer team and answer any questions you want.
Excellent. All right, moving right along to 6C, general discussion from the committee. Generally speaking. Wednesday still working. Well, 2 weeks from today at 6 p.m. Still looking good for most people. If not, you can't make it, of course. It's not the end of the world, and we all have busy schedules, but we want to make sure that we're still keeping on track schedule-wise, and we're moving forward with the overall project. So if there's no objection, August 10th. Thank you. And sorry, I didn't get the agenda. I realized last night, I've been on vacation, and realized that we sent out the notifications, but I didn't email the committee. So my apologies. We sent out to the public except for the committee. All right. If not, I will move to item number C. Looking for somebody for that.
Second.
Motion by Danny, seconded by Stam. All those in favor for adjourning at 7:12 p.m. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.